They're creepy and they're kooky. The ookiness of the Addams Family's 4 films feature a cast that has shared circumstances as macabre as the characters they portrayed on screen. Keep watching to see the horrors they've had to withstand. Raul Julia, who played Gomez Addams in the 1991 and 1993 film adaptations of The Addams Family, was a notable actor who had a Shakespearean pedigree and a Tony Award nomination. Yet the last film he would make would be 1994's Street Fighter, an adaptation of a video game. The film gained unfavorable reviews due to poor script and weak plot. Julia signed on because his kids were fans of the game and potentially knew he didn't have much time left with them. Julia, who was of Puerto Rican descent, incorporated a British accent for the role of M. Bison, all while struggling with stomach cancer. His children would visit the set to see the film in production. While the film was harshly criticized, his performance was received positively. Unfortunately, Julia died before the film was released. He was only 54. The final cut features a dedication to the star. Jimmy Workman, the actor who played Pugsley Addams in both films, was embroiled in a custody dispute involving 2 of his sisters. He filed paperwork to get custody of his 15-year-old sister, Ariel Winter, who was under the custody of their other sister, Chanel Gray. Allegedly, Workman claimed that Gray was a terrible guardian and a bad role model who exploited Winter's fame from her starring role in Modern Family. Workman claims Gray had prior drug problems and that she persuaded Winter to spend her money on parties. Workman also said Gray was turning their little sister against her mother and asked for Winter's custody to be transferred to him. Winter, however, was happy with Gray being her guardian. An agreement was eventually reached in which Winter stayed under Gray's guardianship. During the proceedings, Workman left the courtroom in tears when the judge formally granted Gray guardianship of Winter. In 2020, Christina Ricci, who played Wednesday in both Addams Family films, filed for divorce from her husband James Heerdegan. 6 months later, she was granted a domestic violence restraining order against him. The court order required Heerdegan to stay 100 yards away from Ricci and prohibit visiting their 6-year-old Freddie. Ricci claimed she was exposed to severe physical and emotional abuse by her husband and claimed many acts of abuse occurred while their son was present. Ricci said the abuse started when she became pregnant in October 2013. She recalled feeling extremely isolated and remembered during a vacation in New Zealand in which Heerdegan said that the only way he could feel sorry for me is if I were dismembered into small pieces. She then proceeded to hide the knives in the cabin and slept with Freddie in a separate bedroom because she feared for her and her son's life. She also said he brutally attacked her in December 2019. Things got worse during the COVID-19 pandemic, and she was afraid to sleep at night. Heerdegan denied the allegations. Ricci married her second husband, Mark Hampton, in October 2021, and in December they welcomed their first child, a daughter. In 2008, Angelica Houston, who played Morticia Addams in the Addams Family movies, struggled deeply after the death of her husband, sculptor Robert Graham. He died from a rare disease called Wagner syndrome, which causes inflammation of blood vessels. After his passing, Houston struggled to stay afloat financially because Graham had no health insurance and she was forced to pay out of pocket for his medical bills. She told Vulture in 2019, "I was left with no money, less than no money." Houston stated that she was never able to relax because she always had to keep working. She added, "It was the worst time of my life, partly because everyone thought I had lots and lots of money." Carl Stryken, the 7-foot-tall lurch in the Addams Family movies, has acromegaly, also known as gigantism. Those who have the disease typically are tall and have large hands, feet, noses, and jaws. The skeleton and soft tissue grows much larger than the average humans. It's a rare condition caused by a tumor, with only 4 out of 1 million people developing it per year. Most aren't diagnosed with acromegaly until 8 to 10 years after the tumor begins growing. Some people are never diagnosed, which can have some terrible consequences. Stryken was diagnosed with acromegaly when he was 20 years old, but he pointed out that many medical professionals are unaware of the disease. He stated, "What I've always noticed going through the medical mill is that there are people, even endocrinologists, who should know their stuff, who are really very uneducated as far as acromegaly is concerned. Left untreated, acromegaly can cause a variety of conditions, including diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, cancer, blindness, and arthritis." John Franklin played Cousin It in the Addams Family movies. The short-statured actor has a growth hormone deficiency that makes him look younger than his actual age. While he had a promising career, starring in films such as Children of the Corn, he left acting in the early 2000s after suffering some tragedies. In 2016, he revealed one of his closest friends was murdered while 3 months pregnant. When his agent, whom he considered a second mother, passed away, he said, "I just really loved her, and she died of cancer. It was just all this death, boom, boom, boom." His grief was further amplified after the September 11th terrorist attacks. The culmination of devastating events made him want to quit acting and contemplate what his legacy would be. He chose to teach English for 14 years, before returning to acting in small roles on TV shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Fresh Off the Boat. Paul Benedict, known best for his role on The Jeffersons, played Judge George Womack in 1991's The Addams Family. He had a unique look with an oversized jaw and angular features caused by acromegaly. Benedict didn't know he had the disease until a radiologist spotted something unusual about Benedict at the Theater Company of Boston in the mid-60s and recommended he be diagnosed. Benedict had a 20-minute operation. He explained, "It would have killed me if it hadn't been caught at that time. My headaches had grown worse and I was completely exhausted." Following the procedure, he didn't have any recurring issues and became a character actor. Carol Kane played Grandmama Addams in Addams Family Values. Most people recognize her for her distinctive, breathy voice, which Kane isn't too keen on, even though it's her signature.
Listen to me.
In fact, she revealed in 2020 that she felt shame over it, explaining, quote, "It's just an odd voice." She added that her voice particularly bothers her when she's speaking to strangers on the phone, and they recognize who she is. Instead, Kane wished her voice was deep and sexy. As for her looks, Kane is much more confident about her features now than she was when she was a young woman. When asked if she had any advice for her younger self, she said, "To try and enjoy my beauty that I had when I was young. I thought I wasn't pretty enough. I look back and I think, boy, I wasted those 15 years." Nathan Lane made a cameo as the police desk sergeant in Addams Family Values. He later played Gomez in the Addams Family musical on Broadway. While the star came out to his family when he was 21 years old, he did not come out publicly for several years. However, after his appearance in the 1996 film The Birdcage, his publicist warned him that his sexual orientation would be a subject of interest because people wanted to know that truth. At one point, Lane was sitting in a cab in Manhattan when a man in a truck kept calling him a derogatory slur that Lane found humiliating. And it was just the beginning. While many assumed he was gay, Lane simply wasn't ready to address it publicly. Yet people pressed him to open up about his personal life. Before an appearance on Oprah, Lane expressed that he was not ready to tell her that he was gay. Lane's co-star Robin Williams diverted Oprah's pressing questions, but Lane didn't officially come out publicly until 1999 during an interview with The Advocate. By then, most fans knew he was gay and weren't as supportive as the actor had hoped. He explained, "It was all so intimidating. Honestly, I was terrified." Tony Shalhoub had a small cameo as Jorge in Addams Family Values, but is most known for his role in the USA TV series Monk. In 2003, Shalhoub won his first Emmy Award for Best Actor in a comedy series for his role as the obsessive-compulsive detective Adrian Monk. And while most people would have been celebrating such an achievement, Shalhoub's win was bittersweet. Instead of enjoying the post-Emmy after-parties, a personal tragedy weighed heavily on the actor's mind. The day before the ceremony, the star's 34-year-old nephew passed away of undisclosed causes in Wisconsin. Shalhoub is very close to his family, according to those who know him well. While he tried to celebrate his Emmy win, he was mourning the death of his nephew. During his acceptance speech, he had a hard time keeping his emotions contained. USA Network's president Doug Herzog said of the moment, "He was happy but also completely heartbroken and filled with sorrow." He didn't stay long at the party. David Hoberman, the executive producer of Monk, noted that Shalhoub had mixed emotions. The star was happy, yet also dealing with a great personal loss. He skipped the obligatory interviews the following morning and instead flew to Wisconsin to spend time with family members. Charlize Theron voiced the character Morticia Addams in the 2019 computer-animated film The Addams Family, as well as the 2021 sequel, The Addams Family 2. But years prior to the star's success in Hollywood, her mother, Gerda Theron, killed her father in self-defense. Charlize opened up about the incident, explaining her father was an alcoholic and, quote, "a very sick man." She added that her home life was unhealthy and that her father's actions were scarring. When she was 15 years old, her dad came home drunk with a gun and terrorized the women by trying to push through the bedroom door to get to Charlize and her mother. Charlize notes, quote, "He took a step back and just shot through the door 3 times. None of those bullets ever hit us, which is just a miracle. But in self-defense, my mother ended the threat." The actress noted that she's not ashamed to talk about her father's violence or the incident because it can be cathartic, and that her story is, quote, "about growing up with addicts and what that does to a person." Snoop Dogg voiced the character of Cousin Itt in the 2019 and 2021 computer-animated Addams Family films. In 1993, Snoop was charged with murder after his bodyguard, McKinley Lee, shot and killed rival gang member Philip Walder-Merriam. The rapper was acquitted by a jury in 1996 and told reporters he had prayed to God for the outcome.
I left it in God's hand, Abby.
The defense team had argued that Snoop Dogg, real name Kelvin Broadus, and Lee responded in self-defense after an armed Walder-Merriam confronted the pair in a park in Los Angeles. Following the incident, Snoop changed the style of lyrics for his second album, The Dogfather, and started writing about life instead of death. He noted that he didn't want to, quote, "glamorize and glorify death," and that his life had changed, and his lyrics were a reflection of that. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website,